It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths.
Oh, Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths. It's on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. It is episode number 9. I'm with the Golden Groom. And we've breaking news on the bottom of the screen. Ronan Groome, let's hope we get the clash.
Oh, it's happening, mate. I think it's happening. I think you're getting a bit nervous as well. I think it's a big week for you. It's a big week for the founder of the Energumen fan club and all those Shishkin fanboys as well. There's going to be war now on Saturday afternoon. I think. How are you feeling? What's the gist of what Barry Doyle is thinking?
Holy war is happening at Ascot, but all the conditions are in Energumen's favour, aren't they? Haven't really took a big look at the weather forecast, but going right-handed at Ascot, especially where Shishkin jumped last time. I thought he did jump notably out to his left. But let's hope they've bullied Nicky into it. The British press have bullied him into it, and he's trying to act a big man on interviews last week. Look, it's Energumen's. It's Energumen's to lose, isn't it? And we could be sitting on a 1-2 shot on the team captain on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge on Saturday afternoon, please God. But Roland, we're going to get on with the show, and great reaction again last week in the comments section. Plenty of people engaging, getting their questions in to us, which we will be going through later in the show. We're going to start with the big race review, Mr. Groome. And what better place to start than Punchestown? We had 2 massive performances, didn't we? The Moscow Flyer Novice Hurdle, Dysart Dynamo, Bob Olinger. I tell you what, I think we're going to talk about Bob Olinger because look at he's shortened up significantly now for the Turners, and I thought it was a step forward from his debut over fences at Goran.
It was definitely, well, Goran, he beat subsequent Grade 1 winner in Master McShee, and the winning margin seemed a bit more authoritative at Goran as well. That was a good chase, and yeah, I'm not sure how much he stepped forward, but I thought he jumped a little better, which was important. I didn't think his jumping at Goran was absolutely 100%. He was a bit skewy at some of his fences, kind of an awkward shape. Even over the last, he was kind of awkward. It was the last or the second last, he was a bit kind of awkward. It wasn't completely perfect here, but we got from A to B fine. And I don't know, for a second and coming into the straight, I thought Capitano was a real threat. I'm not sure what sort of price he traded on the machine, but I'd imagine it was quite short because Rachel was getting busy with Bob Olinger, and yeah, look, he was a authoritative winner in the end. He pulled clear and the engine got going, and it was good to see. He's 2 from 2 over fences now, and he's obviously got the Cheltenham know-how, and he deserves to be favourite for the Turners, but just wasn't, I don't know, just wasn't amazing for me. I didn't think it was worthy of some of the praise that it was getting from some quarters. I think Jerry Hannon said in commentary, hardly broke a sweat. I wouldn't have gone that far now. He did have to work now to get by Capitano, who's a good horse. I know you like him. You like him for the national hunt, and he did amazingly well to win his beginners at Naas after a terrible mistake 2 out. And they've pulled a bit clear, but a couple of them in behind are a bit disappointed. I'm hugely disappointed now with Gaillard and the Maze Neal just not happening from so far. Maybe he needs to step up and trip. And a couple of them under, like Lifetime Ambition, hasn't really kicked on at all. So, yeah, look, he's good. Bob Olinger is good to get the experience. Will he run again before Cheltenham? I don't know. And are those 2 performances enough to make him the price he is for the Turners now, which seems quite short to me? Even money or thereabouts. Wouldn't be for me, Basil. What did you think?
I was impressed. I must say I was one of the more critical voices when it came to Bob Olinger following his debut over fences at Goran. And I thought, I thought he was a lot more professional. I think credit has to be given probably to Rachel for the ride. I mean, she kept them wide, gave him a good sighter. at his fences. He was clever at one or two. Capadano is a fair horse, and I guess I'm after putting him up for the National Hunt Chase. He could easily run in the Festival Novice. He is going to step up and trip. I think he is a classy. He was a classy contender for the race, and was well supported to run well. A lot of the each money was on Capadano. His run impressed me. Step up and trip is going to help him. We're talking about Bob Olinger. I thought, he couldn't have done any more running, and we know about his engine. I think his jumping has improved, obviously, from going on to his second run. And we're probably going to see a better horse when it comes to Cheltenham as well. He did not only improve as the season went on last year as well. So whether I'd like to be backing him at his odds on in a place for a Marsh Chase, I'm sure he'll be in plenty of multiples. He is already. But I thought he couldn't have done anything better than he did. Given, I suppose, the quality of the race. You mentioned back in third, Galler Demini, like they've come 27 lengths clear of him. I thought it was a fair race now. And Capadano would have been a good winner. There was some decent horses with good ratings over hurdles. You mentioned Lifetime Ambition. So the form, Lieutenant Command, Gallant John Joe, they're all in there. So there was a decent field of horses. And the front two have come miles clear. So I would be a little bit more positive on Bob Olinger now than yourself.
That's fair enough. I will pose a question to you though, with the future in mind, maybe for Bob Olinger. Where do you go next year? So he's this 2.5 miles. He's done the 2.5 miles over hurdles, and he's done the 2.5 miles over fences. If he goes, obviously, he will go for the turners. Are you going up or are you going down with him with the future? Or say, for example, I know we have this debate all the time of whether there should be a 2.5 mile chase at Cheltenham, as in the Ryanair or the Turners. Would you be going for the Arkle this year, or would you be going for the Festival Novices?
This year with Bob Olinger? You're telling me we should bring him back in trip?
What would you do? Say if there was no 2.5 miles at Cheltenham.
If there was no 2.5 miles at Cheltenham, what would I do with Bob Olinger? It's a good question. I wouldn't mind seeing him over 2 miles. I think Henry could have probably dropped him back to 2 miles to sharpen up his jumping a little bit based on his scoring run. I wouldn't mind seeing him back at 2 miles, but I think long term this horse is going to be a 3 miler. King George next year for Bob Olinger. That would be something I'd like to see. I think he obviously travels strongly in his races. You mentioned Capadano, went a good gallop, and for a stride or two, Rachel had to get a little bit serious with Bob Olinger, but he showed a good smart turn of foot. I thought over 2.5 miles on soft ground, up and trip next year. That would be the route I would be going. But as I said, he's that type of horse. He could probably win over any trip. But would I be rushing to back him at the prices? Probably not. There's probably some each way value available in the Marsh Chase if you looked hard enough. But I certainly wouldn't be rushing to take him on as I was before his run at the weekend. So positive vote for Bob Olinger for me, Ronan Groome. Next section of the show was the selected performance. And we'll let you come in on this again. Selected performance of the weekend.
Yeah, going for Dysart Dynamo in the Moscow Flyer. Look,
Ronan Groome, can I stop you there? How in the name of God's name did you not put him up? You were talking to me about him last week. You went and backed him for the Supreme. There's no use in telling the viewers that now, but you must have been impressed.
Yeah, well, that's just what I was just about to say. It was we were talking on the Tuesday. We recorded the show on the Monday, and on the Tuesday we had the entries for the Moscow Flyer. And if I'd seen that on the Monday or those entries, or we recorded the show on Tuesday, I would have, because the angle in to him was that he was going to be Willie's first string in the Moscow Flyer. Everyone knows that Willie likes to send a good one to the Moscow Flyer. Maybe not in the last couple of years, it hasn't worked out, but that doesn't mean not all of them work out. And if you look at his past winners, it was Min and Batur and Duvan, and they went straight to the Supreme, and they were favourites for the Supreme. So that was the angle. And did I expect him to be that impressive? No, probably not. But you know, you pays your money, you take your chance, and he's a short price now. I was just looking at some of the lads who've put him up in our comments, the likes of Darren Goodwin, Mark Lewis, and Chris Neville. They're all on for the Ballymore at fancy prices. They must have had their head in their hands, because he's not short of pace, this fella. Dysart Dynamo, he blitzed them, I thought, from the front. The overall time wasn't great, but I think this was a kind of one of those races where he killed off all his rivals early on, and nothing could really keep going with him. It was like it was kind of like a on the soul kind of thing. Just blast off in front, win on the bridle, and the time wasn't amazing, but nothing could keep up with him. And I mentioned before the race in our podcast that Gringo Debrel was going to give the race a nice bit of context. Obviously, he'd been third in the shadow, so that's a good line through to the British form, and it goes to show that Dysart Dynamo is, at the very least, is right up there with the likes of Stage Star, if not better than him, and he's a top British novice. And look, he's 4-1 now for the Supreme. I think what he's achieved there is at least the equal of what John Bon, definitely better than what John Bon has achieved so far, and at least the equal of what Constitution Hill has done. So if Willie Mullins came out tomorrow morning and said, yeah, 100% we're going for the Supreme, I still think he's going to go for the Supreme anyway. I think Willie's definitely tipping that way. But if he was 100% Supreme contender in the morning, I think he'd be favourite.
I was a little bit, I wasn't bought into the whole Dysart Dynamo camp, I suppose, prior on Thursday's podcast, but I've watched the race back a couple of times, and visually it was a phenomenal performance. After the line, the smile on Paul Townend's face, I haven't seen a smile similar since Energumene won at Gorham Park on his novice chase debut. And the horse took a while to pull up, didn't he? This Dysart Dynamo. And yeah, look, as I said, I wasn't totally sold by him at Cork. There was lots of chat after his maiden win. I wasn't sold on his jumping. Thought his jumping improved as the race developed at Cork. But I thought he jumped a lot better here in the Moscow Flyer. The one thing I would say about the race, you mentioned Constitution Hill, John Bon, and what I suppose they've achieved. Dysart Dynamo, you know, there's 19 lengths back to Gringo Debrel, who's probably going to have a handicap in mind in the spring. Is it a grade 2 is the question I'm asking. The Little Yank 150-1. There's two closest challengers on the book going into the race were pulled up. Hawaii Game, Gilly Billy. What he achieved visually was incredible. You know, really, it would take the eye out of your head what he did. I think the Supreme Novice going into the race, actually, I can't understand, and it's easy to say this in hindsight, but the way he races, he is a bit of a free going sort. It's easy to say this in hindsight, but he was supported for a Ballymore. To me, it would look, I wouldn't be surprised to see Sir Gerhard now go up in trip, or does Willie run the two of them together in the Supreme? It'll be interesting to see the way it develops. But the form, just back to my point, the form of this particular race, you know, was it too good to be true? I don't know. Visually, it was incredible. Anyway, so look, my Ante-Post on Mighty Potter for the Supreme is my only play in the Supreme so far. And if I am gonna, I suppose, jump ship or back something closer to the time, it will certainly be a lot closer to the time. The price now, what is he, 4-1 best price for the Supreme? Ronan Groome, you must have got the value at 14-1, but it's just a pity you didn't put him up on this show. I suppose same story with me and Blue Lord, isn't it? For the Arkle. Let's talk about my selected performance, which is a little bit more. It's not as fancy as yours, Ronan Groome. I went to Fairy House on Saturday, and I was very taken by the performance of a horse that I loved all of last year. I actually put him up on last year's show for the Boodles. So followers of the show last year will remember me talking up a horse called Autumn Evening. And look, he went into this race off a mark of 133. He's, I suppose, last year, he's a 5-year-old by Tammy Hughes, never made the Cheltenham Festival last year. So had 4 runs in total last year over hurdles, but his form seemed to peter out a little bit in the spring last year. But, you know, he won, I suppose, at Listowel in September this year on his return, and he's progressed, I think, this horse. What struck me was his jumping. Last year, his jumping was a bit scrappy. He ran in the Grade 1 at Leopardstown, took a couple of hurdles out. It was a night catcher behind Zana here. And I thought he was, you know, tailor-made for the Boodles handicap at Cheltenham. But his jumping seems to have really improved. I was so impressed by how professional he was. His jumping right throughout the race was foot perfect. And I'd say there's a lot more to come for this horse. Kate Harrington in the aftermath spoke about the Ladbrokes 2-mile handicap at Leopardstown, but could sneak into maybe something like a county hurdle. As I said, he's rated 133. Will probably go up a couple of pounds off the back of it. Haven't seen the revised mark, but might sneak into something like a county hurdle. And I think he's a stronger horse now. I remember speaking to Paddy Kennedy last year about this horse, and you know, he's a big frame, so he is going to improve, and I like him, and you can get him at 20-1 for the county hurdle for anyone who wants to. I'm not going to put him up, but you know, it'll be interesting. I think this horse will win a big handicap this season. That's autumn evening. So Ronan Groome, my mouse seems to have frozen. Let's talk about the over and under section of the show. How about yourself? Overrated performance, and I'll come in, and then we'll give her our underrated performance.
Yeah, well, I was going to do mine together just because Bob Olinger is my overrated, and we talked a bit about him already, and you've kind of put up a good case against him, which against the case of it being overrated, I think you think he's okay. So we'll leave that section there. My underrated was I quite like the Leamington winner. I thought he was a bit went a bit under the radar. Staghorn. Don't tell me, is that your over?
No,
that's not your overrated, is it?
He was a contender, but he's a flat. Come from the flat, has he? This horse, Archie Watson.
Yeah, Archie Watson trains him. Yeah, I just thought he went along nicely from the front from Nick Schofield. And he kept finding and he kept powering away from them. I thought he could end up something for the Albert Bartlett. Look, he's an inexperienced horse. I think he only had a couple of runs going into the race. So for him to go away and win as he did, I thought he produced a nice, powerful performance in the straight, and was, you know, there's a load of them in with a chance coming into the straight, but he kept finding. He never ever felt like they were going to get by him. And Nick Schofield said he felt he went to a really good gallop with him, and he kept going. So maybe he's that type of horse. And yeah, look, he was a decent horse from the flat. Looks like he'd be better over hurdles. And he's not going to be a horse that's rated well. Well, he's never going to be an overrated horse because he's trained by a flat trainer, Archie Watson. He's British trained for once, and he's won the Leamington at Warwick, which just has kind of gone down in people's estimations. It's since the likes of Willoughby Court were winning it, and as we said, Thomas Hobson and the like, hasn't produced a decent Cheltenham type of horse in a few years. So yeah, I'd be interested in him now if they did decide to go down the Cheltenham Road and at a big price, something like the Albert Bartlett or even the Ballymore is still wide open. You know, that's the picture there is there's no real strong contenders for that race yet. So wouldn't write off Staghorn going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why not?
Well, I want to talk about one of my selections, who you'll see along the bottom. Any of the viewers, just the first time to watch. Our selections to date are in the bar down the bottom. It was interesting. I looked back, Ronan Groome. I got myself a nice little new TV from a little Champ.ie studio. And I was looking back at our show last week, yesterday afternoon, and it was interesting. We came down in Sporting John. It was like, no, move on. Next selection, not my best for the Stairs hurdle. My underrated performance, this Sporting John, this horse is a serious horse. He got away, didn't he? He got away at the weekend on Aidan Coleman. I'd say there was a wrap around the knuckles now for Mr. Aidan Coleman. Not sure what more he could have done. The horse just travelled right throughout the race. It was the Pertemps qualifier I'm talking about at Warwick, the 3:35 on soft ground, 3 mile 1 furlong. The horse just, I don't know. He was out to get qualified, wasn't he? Went away and won the race by 3 lengths. Was flagged up. I think on Open the Ante, was it last week for the Pertemps. This horse, he wins this off 151. I'd say he'll get absolutely hammered. I don't know the way, I haven't seen, but there's no way this horse runs in the Pertemps off something like 158, does he? He probably goes up about £7 for this.
He's got a very similar profile to the last horse that won a qualifier to win the actual Pertemps final. Fingal Bay is in. They're both trained by Philip Hobbs. They both were respectively good chasers, novice chasers. Didn't work out for them chasing. Came back over hurdles, and then went down the 3 mile route and prospered there. So
they have to.
I think you're right, though.
He has to go to the stairs after this, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think top weight in the Pertemps. I think Sire de Burle is what they're trying to get ready for that, maybe. But
he was the eye catcher in the race, wasn't he, Sire de Burle?
Yeah.
I thought, and he seems to be coming down. I suppose, in terms of his mark. Sporting John looks the type of horse that will do nothing, only progress. So you're talking about the Pertemps. Fingal Bay won the Pertemps off 148 off top weight. So you're looking at Sporting John, who's already on 151 and goes and wins. Like, they've no other option now, do they? But as Racing Ted said, sod it and go for the stairs. So look, I think this horse, if the ground did turn up at Cheltenham, it looks like I have 2 live darts now, doesn't it, for the stairs hurdle, and Florine Porter, who's a wild card, and Sporting John. My original selection, Ronan Groome, at 20-1. I think he's as short as 12-1.
He's still got about £10 to follow, or to find Basil.
I don't know. I think this horse is a lot of improvement in him. It was just the placing that I wasn't sure about, not the quality of the horse. So yeah, underrated performance, Sporting John, to do what he done. I thought was impressive. I mentioned for the Jam Man, actually, he was creeping down the weights for something like a Pertemps. He is qualified, and he's come down from a career high mark of 150 to the mid 140s. So he could be one that could have a squeak in a Pertemps. Over the over section, yeah, you're exactly right, Ronan Groome. To be honest, it was the two graded races at Warwick. I know we spoke to Adrian Heskin midweek about 3 under through 5. Not sure the quality of that race. Staghorn, like, they're 2 grade 2 races at Warwick. We're after speaking about grade 2s at Punchestown. Chalk and cheese. There's not Cheltenham winners coming out of either of those 2 races, in my view. So yeah, that would be, I suppose, that part of the show. Tracker horse. I tell you what, Ronan Groome, I delivered a tracker horse on last week's show. Cruise Control went out and won on the Tuesday at Exeter, and we put him up on the Monday night. He was in the tracker from one of our previous episodes. Bumper winner, got up by a nose for Tom Lacey. Looking forward to seeing this horse go over jumps. But I want to mention a horse as my tracker horse from the same card at Exeter, the maiden hurdle. Had Kim Bailey on the Champ.ie podcast earlier on in the season, and Through the Looking Glass is a horse that he trained the mother previously, and I think this is an imposing son of Cape Tara. Finished 8th in a bumper, and speaking to Kim, this horse isn't a bumper horse. Makes his hurdles debut. Over 2 miles, and it was a strange sort to run. They went real steady early. He was keen, and then when they quickened up, he was outpaced and shuffled back. I suppose the field made a horrendous mistake. I think it was at the second when they were going steady, and it was kind of a strange sort of race. And I'm not saying this is going to be a graded hurdler, but this horse is going to win races. I was impressed by how, I suppose, he rallied to the line in the straight. The front couple came clear of the rest up the straight at Exeter. And I think this horse, I think a step up in trip or a stronger run at 2 miles. I think this horse will get off the mark before too long. Up and trip, this horse is going to win races. That's through the looking glass. Put it into the tracker. Ran at Exeter last Tuesday. Mr. Groome, what have you in the tracker?
Yeah, I have a couple, but I will narrow it down to one. A couple of maiden hurdle winners. Like Daily Present with Paul Nolan at Fairyhouse. And I liked Oliver McKiernan's Supreme Jet at Punchestown. Just quickly on Daily Present, I thought he did it nicely. He was second to Hawaii Game on his first run. Okay, fair enough. That Hawaii Game form hasn't worked out, but I'm sure that horse is a bit better than he's shown in the Moscow Flyer. But Daily Present did it nicely.
What did you make of his action, Ronan? What did you make of his action?
Which was this, Daily Present or?
Yeah, Daily Present.
Yeah, no, I thought he was fine. I thought he travelled nicely, powerfully, strongly on the bridle and came away. I'd say he'd be a horse better over further now, down the line. But I want to concentrate on Supreme Jet. He fairly walloped this. Now, maybe he wasn't the greatest hurdle field at Punchestown, but he fairly walloped them. He's gone 79 clear. The jump at the last was it was Bob Olinger-esque, you'd say, over hurdles. He was fly-leaped and he was away, and that was much better than his previous run. He was a bit disappointing behind Bold Getaway, but before that he'd run second to Eric Bloodaxe at Naas. That's decent form considering that horse has gone on to win a grade 2, and I think this Supreme Jet could be one for maybe the big handicap hurdle on Leopardstown, or maybe wait for Punchestown or something like that. He might just get a nice mark over hurdles now. I know he's won by 70 lengths there, but his previous hurdles form will be taken into account as well, maybe. And he's just a genuinely type of progressive horse. He's only had the 3 runs. He could be one for a handicap hurdle now off a mark maybe in the high 130s or something like that. I'm not sure if they have Cheltenham on the agenda, but I thought he was good now. Supreme Jet. Two good maiden hurdles, and him and Daily Present now going forward would be worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, interesting, Mr. Groome. I thought I had 1 or 2 maybe other horses to mention. There was 2 in my novice hurdlers to follow for the season on an earlier show. Govan finished second, was touched off, wasn't he?
Bit of a monkey.
Yeah, possibly. Or there could be another day in mind. Which is it? Soft Risk has made it 4 from 4 over hurdles up the north. For anyone that likes to follow the northern race, Nicky Richards, Soft Risk. This horse, I think, is worth following. I think especially into next season when he goes over a fence. So he's won a couple of races at 1 to 3, 1 to 4. Under the radar for Brian Hughes and Nicky Richards. Nice horse. One to be following. I think long term he obviously came out on one at Kelso yesterday to make it 4 on the bounce. Mr. Groome, questions from the viewers.
Yes. And
by the way, this is when Ronan Groome wants to say, put in your questions because we like answering them. Next week, in the questions, any questions you have for myself or the Golden Groom, stick them in. We'll answer them. We'll put them up on screen and give you a shout out. Talk to us.
Yeah, Craig O'Donnell, fair play to him. He's been playing all season and a really interesting one. I guess he's trying to split up the Rob Corr and the Bective stud horses, the Nolan Valerie Moran horses, and Mr. Atchison, Mr. Brian Atchison. They've all got nice novices, and that's the conundrum punters have, isn't it? This time of year, you have that 2.5 miles of the Ballymore, and you have the stayers. So, put it to you this way, Basil. Journey with me and Jerry Colombe. What are you doing if you are Mr. Rob Corr, Mr. Brian Atchison, or who goes where?
Jerry Colombe, Ballymore. Journey with me, Albert Bartlett.
And Ginto and Hollow Games, who's going where if you're Mr. Noel Moran?
I would send Ginto to the Albert Bartlett, and I would keep Hollow Games for another day on soft ground. I
Would
wouldn't
you?
send him to. I wouldn't send him to Cheltenham.
I think Hollow Games will go Albert Bartlett. I think he's a stayer all out now. I think you could be right with Ginto. He could be out and out stayer 3 miles as well. But he has done this.
I could not have him in a Ballymore whatsoever. In fact, I'm yet to be sold on the whole Ginto propaganda yet.
Okay. Shane Tracy asking, is JPR1 a big price of 33-1 for possibly the Ballymore he'd go for, I guess? Yeah, he's linking the form into Hillcrest, who we both like. Basil, what about JPR1? I think you spoke about him on a previous podcast, have you?
I haven't. No, I think did you mention him? You sent me a text message that someone had asked about him. He's rated 129, goes for the Betfair hurdle. Has some, like, I mean, he has some decent enough form. Obviously, beat Luttrell Lad, which I know Philip Hobbs likes him, on debut as a 4-year-old. Maximus was back in third on the day. That ties in a little bit maybe with your Hillcrest form. I suppose the Tango Tara, was it? He beat last time 6.5 lengths. He's a progressive sort of horse, and I wouldn't be surprised if were he to run very well in the Betfair hurdle. And what do you do with him then? Do you step him up and trip, or do you keep him to 2 miles? You'd love to see the Tizards back with a good one, wouldn't you? Eldorado Allen, was he in these silks last year? Ran second in an article for, is it JP Romans? The form, actually, I'm not sure you like this. That's all right, Gino. That obviously, that form didn't work out so well, did it, last time?
No.
You fancied him to run a big race in the Tolworth, was it? So, like, that's, I don't know. He's a progressive horse. 33-1. Are you asking me, would I back it at that price? I'd probably want to see him run again.
Yeah, well, he's interesting for the Betfair if he does go for his nice kind of unexposed profile. All these questions that you've replied to already on the comments, I'm just giving you an opportunity, I guess, to say it on the actual podcast, Barry. But Blue Lord, Yo Tran was asking. He said, "I've got Blue Lord for as cover for Fernie Hollow in the Arkle, but do you actually think Blue Lord will run, as Willie tends to only run one in the Arkle? You think obviously he will. Well, you hope he will anyway.
He'll win it."
Potentially. Stefan O'Hara was asking any news on Aspire Tower, and I haven't actually got that news. Stefan, I'm afraid. I'm a big fan of this horse. I just really looking forward to him. I had him in my to follow kind of list at the start of the season. I thought he might go chasing because he's a big chaser, or he's a big horse anyway. But the word was, I think they were going to keep him over hurdles. Now, obviously, he had a little bit of a setback. Hasn't kind of worked out for him so far, and we haven't seen him. But he was in the Champion Hurdle entries. I didn't actually. He might have been in the Stayers Hurdle as well. But you obviously need to be running very soon. Stefan, I think you like him as well, potentially. But yeah, just waiting to see him. Hopefully get him out soon. Maybe something that Goran, like the Red Mills or something like that. If they had him ready, maybe the Dublin Racing Festival, throw him in there. But we'll see. And that's all the questions we have for now, I think, Basil. Oh, one more from Hector Hugo. Fairness to him, he always watches it. He was kind of crabbing back in the Nicky Henderson horses and the Willie Mullins horses. I think he said he backed Buzz at 14-1, which was a good bet in fairness. And you've just been unlucky there, Hector, I think. But I think that's the thing with Ante-Post punting now, isn't it, Barry? You gotta. It's a puzzle that's become even more harder every year. There's so many races, so many options. So if you can connect one into the right race, it's half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Like there obviously is a certain element of guesswork. Like some of my selections, as you can see down the bottom, like Mighty Potter, does he go Supreme? Does he go at Ballymore? You're talking about Janadil. Obviously, he's going for the Ryanair, and might go off a single figure price. We went down to Gold Cup route with him. Sporting John Pertemps, or Stayers Hurdle. Looks like we might come out on the right side of that one and get a run. Capadano, will he go Festival Novice? or will he go for the National Hunt Chase? So there's an element of that. I think if you're picking a horse that is absolutely going to go for the race, we're constantly learning as we go. But if you can pick a horse that absolutely is going for a race, obviously it's a big help. So hence why I got a couple of solid ones in there: Blue Lord, Floating Porter, Tell Me Something Girl. So we've a couple of solid ones in the book, but sometimes you do have to take a flyer, as you did last week with Hillcrest for the Ballymore, which I think will go for the Albert Bartlett. Sorry to break it to you.
Yeah, well, probably no mine up, but yeah, but I just say, yeah, for me, it's not. I don't tend to play these novice races until late in the season. But early in the season, you can look at mares races. Obviously, they're limited to. There's only a couple, the Mayor's Chase now, obviously, in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle and the Mayor's Hurdle itself. And the likes of the Ryanair, if you get a specialist there like Allaho, that's why I was keen to get him on board first time. And yeah, it's just, I think you have to embrace it more than get annoyed by it now. It's a puzzle that people, you got to work out. Everyone knows what Willie Mullins does. Nicky Henderson is obviously a bit careful, but yeah,
probably if I'm to look back at this particular show, and we I suppose the Champ.ie Ante-Post selections, the most heartbreaking for me over the last couple of years was Allaho, who I flagged up for the Marsh. He went for the RSA and probably would have won the Marsh the same season. Appreciated for the Ballymore last year, put him up at 12-1 on the road to Cheltenham Challenge, and he went and won the Supreme like he did. And the other one that springs to mind was after the which is not dead, by the way. After the Martin Pipe, after the Cheltenham Festival last year, put up one selection on the review show, the Road to Cheltenham Challenge review show last season, 25-1, and I've backed him for the Marsh Chase or the Turner's Chase. He's a gallop on the Sharps, and he's now 5-4 favourite for the Festival Novice. So hopefully Willie goes and pulls a master stroke like he did with Black Hercules, drops him back to 2.5 and wins. But look, wishful thinking maybe on that one. But interesting what Ruby said, to be fair. And he galloping the Champ fans out there. Ruby Walsh requested a price for the Marsh on the road to Cheltenham, didn't he? And the way the horse jumped, we're kind of rambling now, Ronan, but the way the horse jumped at Leopardstown, and maybe his lack of experience over fences, would that maybe suggest that Willie, would take the easier option and stay over 2.5 miles? I'm not sure. Bob Olinger might have had something to say about that at the weekend, but we'll have to wait and see with that one. The time I suppose we've all been waiting for. Actually, you know what, Ronan? Go for it. Rattle through your selections pretty quickly. I'll go for it first. Mighty Potter, 25-1 for the Supreme Novice Hurdle. Very much alive. Although, I don't know, it's looking a more competitive race now, but I think Mighty Potter is going to run in the Supreme, and 25-1 will surely be value on the day if he goes that route. And hopefully he goes to the Dublin Racing Festival and puts Sarah Gerhard away. So yeah, that's Mighty Potter. He was my week 1 selection. And Erjameen, 5-1 team captain. He'll be 1-2 on Saturday afternoon for the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Magic Days. Jeez, I loved her when I put her up at the time for the Arkle. Loved what she done at Cork on debut over fences. Let's not ramble on about her. I don't know where she is. I don't know what. I don't know how she is, but I don't think that's going to happen for the Arkle Chase. I'm kind of lost my selections down below. Help me out here, Ronan Groome. My week, I put in Janadel as a long range effort, didn't I? He was my first long range effort for the Gold Cup at 50-1. Ran a cracker, of course, in the John Durkin, but shaped like an on-stair next time. Sporting John, Stairs Hurdle, 20-1. Very much Ronan Groome alive and well, I feel, after the weekend. We spoke about him plenty. Softer ground, I think, will suit this horse. If we did get soft ground, JP rolls the dice. Best, I think, look, he's as short as 10-1 in places now for the Stairs Hurdle. You can't get much bigger out there if you go searching. Capadano for the National Hunt Chase. Interesting run. Question, Ronan, what would you do with him if you were Willie Mullins?
Well, he's got Galopan, hasn't he? For the 3 miler.
Come
so
on,
maybe he goes
quickly. National Hunt Chase, fingers crossed. He is as short as 17-2 in a place with 888 Sports. So potential value there on Capadano. Tell Me Something Girl, 6-1, got her in the team, and of course they up in the ante went and crashed the price then the following week. 6-1, lovely. Look, I think she's a lovely profile for the race. Porticello, 14-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. Go on, Gary Moore, roll the dice. This horse has a big chance if he goes. Flooring Porter, wild card, 7-1 for the Stairs Hurdle. Goes for the race and reverses the form of Classical Dream. 7-1, Blue Lord for the Arkle. Again, value as short as 9-2 in a place for the Arkle Chase. Ronan Groome, talk us through your selections.
Yeah, so week 1, I'll go quickly with these. Ellie May, I took 92 by her in week 1. She hasn't been the same mare she was last season so far, I think, but she did meet a good horse in Mount Ida last time. I think she'll go for, if she does go to Cheltenham, she's definitely going for the Mare's Chase. So I think that's still alive, but obviously a bigger price now. Statuaire, haven't seen her since she won the Royal Bond. That form has taken a bit of a kick with like a kick up, an upgrade even by Mighty Potter and couple of others running well at Leopardstown, so just need to see her again. Riviere de Tell, haven't given up on her now. She look Fernie Hollow beat her, and she won't get the extra allowance at Cheltenham, but she's in the Dublin Racing Festival, the 2 mile grade 1 there, so we'll see how she gets on. Saint Felician was a horse that I've heard a bit about and was quite impressed, but I haven't seen him yet properly since his first run in Ireland, so hold the fort there. Galvin for the Gold Cup, I think, is solid at 6-1. Run Wild Fred, come in a bit now for the National Hunt Chase. I think people are coming around to the idea that he could be a rock solid kind of option there. Then I have Knight's Salute for the Triumph. I just think he's a little underrated still. Probably go straight there. Hillcrest, look, we've talked about him already. I think he's a potential really, really nice horse, this Hillcrest. I'm not sure where they're going to go. You think he'll go Albert Bardella? I think he might go Ballymore because he's won over the course and distance already, or won over the distance at least at Cheltenham. So yeah, that's where we're at. And obviously my captain is Allaho, rock solid there. That's a nice one to get. Got the 7-2 price. And then I've played a couple of nice long shots. Heaven Help Us, probably my best bet on the card. Of her at 33-1. Not ecstatic that she's been.
I think that was planned, was it, Ronan Groome? That was just a kind of a flyer, I think, off the bat, to be fair. No,
it was, but look, it's there in black and white, Basil. So, it has to be done to be run, So I'm not ecstatic now that they're planning on running her in the Irish Champion Hurdle, which wouldn't strike me as ideal preparation for the race that they should be aiming her straight for, which is the Mayor's Hurdle. But look, we'll see what happens there. And then Darver Star, I took a swing at as well. I think he may go for the Galmoy Hurdle over 3 miles at Goran. I think, there's fancy prices still available by him. You could do a lot worse than get on at 25-1.
Ooh, at that time of the show, Mr. Groome. Shall I go first?
You go first.
Okay. Week 9 selection. Ronan Groome, last season, a nostril in this race. I'm putting him in the Grand Annual, my first handicap selection of the show. This horse has an ideal profile. It's the 9-year-old Buddy Rich, 20-1 for the Grand Annual. Got in by the skin of my teeth. It's available with 2 firms. 20-1, Buddy Rich, 138. The horse has already had a run at Cheltenham this season. He's had 6 runs over fences since switching from Martin Basil in the spring. And I think this horse has a very likeable profile for the Grand Annual. He will go to this race. He's had that kind of mid-season break. The form, look, he won at Navan after, I suppose, an eye-catching ride at Cheltenham, where he was, I suppose, never really in contention and winning the race behind Third Time Lucky. Goes and wins at Navan next time. Bet Ballyadam by 4 lengths. And I thought it was a decent performance that day. I like a horse that wins at Navan, Ronan, that comes up that hill. Even the way he ran at Cheltenham, it was hands and heels, Davy Russell. Really, it was I think it was a feeler for what's to come in March on that occasion. But as I said, went on to win at Navan. And the form has worked out very well, of course, at Fairyhouse, where he finished 6 lengths behind Dunvegan, who since come out and backed up since and went on, of course, to win. He's got up £17 since the win. So, look, he's got I suppose Buddy Rich, when he ran at Cheltenham, he got a mark of 140. What's he? Are they going to add a couple more pounds on top? He's probably not likely to be beyond, you'd have to say, 143 for what he's done. Anywhere in the mid 140s, I think is this horse is going to have a cracking chance in the Grand Annual. Jumps well, as I say, by Rock of Gibraltar, so he's going to like that bit of better ground. But he is robust. He is a chaser, that I think is going to. You're going to see this horse rated a lot higher than he is currently before the season is out. So ideal profile in the team, 20-1. We were an Austral away last year with Entucas, but Buddy Rich is in the team sheet for the Grand Annual. And Ronan Groome, I'm going for it. You like a flyer? I'm going to have a flyer this time. I'm trying to find the long shot, my second long shot, Ronan Groome. And I get in by the skin of my teeth. The regulations say 25-1 or more. I'm getting this lad in. He is 25-1. And I had to go to, is it BHK or BPK? Some random bookmaker and odds checker.
Who are they? Hold on. Who are they? I'm not having this. Who are they?
You're not having that. Okay, well, look, come here. It's
No. Go on. Who is it? Tell me who it is.
So it's SBK. No disrespect to you, but you've allowed me to get Jerry Calam in at 25-1 for the Albert Bartlett. He is available with Sky Bet at 25-1, and you can get him at SBK. I'm not sure how much to lay, but I'm getting him in. I think this horse, he is, look, 3 from 3 in bumpers, and not too many people would have even seen him run in his first and only start over hurdles, because it was on Stevens's day, not Boxing Day. It was on St. Stevens's Day, in Down Royal, and there was just lots of racing on. And I'd say a lot of people, he might have went under the radar. And you asked me a question earlier, where would you go? Journey with me, if you were Rob Corr, Journey with me, and Jerry Calam. I think Jerry Calam is the sharper of the two. And I feel as though this race hasn't. You obviously put Hillcrest in last week. You mentioned that the Ballymore is a race that there could be potential value in, and it hasn't really fully taken shape. I think that is the case. Something you'd like to think is going to come from left field here. It did disappoint me, and maybe a slight worry that we haven't seen him entered at the Dublin Racing Festival. So that is a worry. But I think at the price of 25-1 that is available, this horse, I would say, will go this route. I think, we mentioned Ginto. I'd say he will go for the Bartlett, and Potter to the Supreme. And I think this horse is a serious talent. I remember reading Gordon's comments earlier in the season, and he did mention Bob Olinger and this horse in the same breath. So could this horse follow suit and go this route? Let's hope so. I'm squeezing the rules, Ronan, getting in by the skin of my teeth. 25-1. Let's put him in as a long shot. So obviously that's a 0.5 bet. But I think this horse is a quality animal, and let's hope he rocks up here.
Very good. SBK, in fairness to them, they sponsored the whole card at Ascot on Saturday. It's the SBK Clarence House Chase, so maybe they're an up and coming firm. To be honest, I'm getting in by the skin of my teeth as well, because I'm taking a price that's only available with Paddy Power and Betfair, which is obviously they're affiliated together, the same company. But it's there for anyone who wants the Betfair Sportsbook and the Paddy Power account. You can back it. It's in the Festival Novices Chase. And
Yeah,
look, we know Galop and the Champ is Galop and the Champ, and he looks a real prospect after his beginner's chase win. But that's just one run. We've only seen him once, and this is an Ante-Post race. There's a lot of water to go under the bridge. I think there's a lot more to come from a horse you're a big fan of, Barry, Ahoy Senor. I'm going to get him on side for the Festival Novices Chase. I thought, obviously, we talked about how good he was at Newbury. He bolted clear there from Mr. Incredible and a couple of others. Maybe a couple of people saying that form wasn't up to much. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. He's still a Grade 1 winner over hurdles. And look, a few people disappointed with how he ran at Kempton. I can't stress enough, and it needs to be said, horses for courses, and Kempton is such a particular track. It's a flat track that suits some horses and it doesn't suit others. And the High Seigneur always struck me as a horse that would be better off at a Galvin track. And I still thought he could have beaten Brave Man's Game, but I don't think there's any shame in getting beaten by him. Brave Man's Game has shown plenty of pace in his couple of starts over fences to date, and he just caught him there late on. I think a big galloping track, and like Cheltenham, will be ideal for a High Seigneur. I love the plan, the preparation. They're going to go for the Toten, I think the Toten Novices Chase, the Weatherby, to get a bit more practice into him. He does need to jump a little better, but there's the scope with him. If he does jump better, he can be even better prospect over fences. And 12-1 in a race that may well cut up with Galopin in there. So even if you wanted to, I know we're win-only purposes for the competition, but even from an each-way perspective, that makes a lot of appeal if the race did end up cutting up with Galop and the Champs in there. If he goes and bolts up at Christmas, you could still back a High Seigneur now at 12-1. And yeah, look, you might be taking on the machine, but you've got good each-way price there, top 3 and maybe a 7-runner race, something like that. So yeah, a High Seigneur is on side for me, and I'm keeping the long shots clear for this week. I'm going to save a couple of them for my when the handicaps get stuck into them later in the series.
And Ronan Groome, just talk to me. How many long shots have you left?
I have a couple, I think.
Well, you've heaven help us, and you put one in last week as well, didn't you?
I have two long shots left.
Yeah, two left, like my good self. I went Janadil at 50-1 for the Gold Cup, and now I've put in Jerry Calam today. So, as I said, it's not absolutely certain that Jerry Calam goes for the Ballymore, but if he did go, I think 25-1 could look massive. This horse is a good horse. So, yeah, finally, you're not going to surprise us with anything else, Ronan. No wild cards. We're going to move on to this. And we're going to wrap it up very quickly. I want to know 3 things, Ronan. Does it happen, number 1? Who wins it, number 2?
I tend to agree with you. I think that the difference in price is a bit too much at the moment. I think the soft ground Ascot will suit an Urgemeen. My whole thing with Shishkin and Urgemeen, because we discussed it a couple of times, was I think Shishkin obviously...
You've never come off the fence. Now get off it.
If you let me make my point, then my whole thing with Shishkin is he's obviously got the festival know-how. He's got the course and distance former in Cheltenham. I think that is big, and I'm not sure if you rate that highly enough because it is a big thing. But at Ascot on soft ground, it's nearly like a neutral venue between the two of them. And I just think the bookies have kind of mirrored the prices for the Ante-Post Queen Mother market, and maybe it shouldn't be that discrepancy. Maybe by the time we're talking about this on Thursday evening, the prices are a lot closer together. So Shishkin's got a huge reputation, and I don't think the British racing public seem to have taken to an Urgemeen, probably because they haven't seen him yet. He's done all his racing in Ireland, so 5-2 about an Urgemeen would make a bit of appeal to me.
Yeah, me the same. I actually think Ascot, soft ground, going right-handed. Yeah. I don't see why Willie wouldn't run. And the question is, does Nicky blink? See you next week, folks.
It's on the final 150 yards. This is a special pair. And it's a Hattons full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10, 12 lengths.